Welcome to the March 2022 horoscope. I am Miss Jenny, and I am your astrologer. This is a channel for down-earth astrology and primal girl wellness. And as promised, March was going to be a spicy, dicey month, and we're not even there yet. But boy, the lead up to the month is pretty insomnia-inducing. Okay, so as I'm doing this horoscope, which is a couple days before March, Vladimir Putin has put his nuclear team on high alert. Zelensky and the negotiators for Russia are, as of today, sitting down to meeting later this afternoon to have discussions. And, storms, plague of locusts, the GOP gone complete batshit crazy. It's just been wow. It's just been wow. I think I'm going to start drinking now. Get a head start. Okay, so good news is if you're watching this horoscope, chances are really good that we're not gonna see the end of the world this month. So for those of you who are planning to rush out and go on a spending spree and run up your credit cards because the world was coming to an end, you would have to pay back those debts. This would not be the month to do it. I'm just saying. Okay. All right, so some general notes about the overview for the month. Here are some things I want you guys to keep in mind. So the first thing is this month is not going to be a relaxing month, a pleasing, soothing month. It's not going to be like that at all. If anything, this month is the overshadowing or underlying energy for the month is going to be dynamic tension. Remember these words, dynamic tension. Which means that buzz that you get when you drink too much coffee and you really need to go burn off some of that energy, or that nervous energy you get before an important exam and you're pacing and walking around, you got to find something to do with yourself because you're just literally discharging a tremendous amount of anxious energy. That is dynamic tension. So this month is going to be very important when you find ways to discharge a lot of this excess nervous energy because there will be plenty of it. So the push, of course, under these circumstances is to do something productive. For all you Virgos out there getting a little chilled on your spine when I say that word, productive. This is that month. Getting productive things done will be very, very good. Expect and be prepared for pushback, resistance, frustrations, and obstacles because, it wouldn't be dynamic if there wasn't something pushing you back and making you put more energy into it. So with that said, don't blow your top, don't lose your cool. Right? Understand that this is the nature of the energy. We're building every ounce of obstacle and frustration and resistance you get and pushback for things is just more opportunity to create even more dynamic energy for greater momentum when you are finally able to move forward with your intentions. So if it's meant to be and you should be moving forward with it, you'll gain a lot of ground before the month is over because of the pushback, right? The resistance, the obstructions in making things easy for you. If it's not meant to go forward and you kind of listen, deep in your heart, you kind of know, or the people around you are trying to tell you as nicely as possible, this is a crap idea. You may want to listen to it. That pushback may be there not to give you more momentum when you move, but literally to get you to pull your head out of your butt, get some common sense and find a different tack to approach because this is going nowhere good fast. Just saying. Okay, now we do have, we've got some really, really great stuff happening this month. And the first thing I want to get into is this very, very first week of March, which is critical. It's a big, hot week for many, many people who are making very important decisions, which could also include you, my friends. Could also include you, because from a tiny acorn, a mighty oak tree doth grow. So, with that said, this whole week is going to be not awful. We have a new moon in Pisces conjuncting Jupiter. Now, some people, because they've got a real Neptune bias, you Neptune bigots, would take issue with this, it's too much, it's too diffuse, and those Pisces, those Neptune people, all of that Neptune energy, trouble, addictions, and it doesn't have to be like that. So some things I want you to consider, because the month starts on the 2nd, March 2nd, with this new moon. The thing I want you to consider is that Jupiter in Pisces is in its natural home. Jupiter belongs in Pisces. It's the ancient ruler of Pisces. And Jupiter in Pisces absolutely covers the phrase miracles. So for those of you who are needing a miracle or looking for a miracle, or might even find yourself being part of something that becomes a miracle for somebody else, this new moon is going to give us some great opportunities to accomplish the impossible, or to have things land in your lap that could save a life, yours or somebody else's. So it's a beautiful, fantastic new moon. This whole week is very magical. It's very magical and mystical and very voodoo. So if you're watching, if you're paying attention, you'll see it, because these are not big, giant things that jump out of bushes at you. And it's there. Now, the big thing about this week is as we get close to the end of the week, so we're looking at this whole week is really good and important, and you can use this energy to your advantage, always, if you're doing the right thing. As we get closer to the end of the week, which is going to take us to the 7th, through the 11th, we've got some really interesting developments that are occurring at the end of this week that will absolutely officially kick off the month of March. Okay, so Venus and Mars, as we speak, are approaching. They're in conjunction with each other, and it's a tag team partnership, like a potato sack race. They are approaching Pluto in the final degrees of Capricorn. So we are reaching the end of the line with a lot of stuff. Decisions will be made, actions will be taken, but more importantly, we're all going to recognize, because we're feeling that sense of urgency to finish this, get on with things. We are all going to, in our personal lives as well as the external world, we're all going to be witnessing the end of something huge and large. There's a massive shift in consciousness that's happening right now while Venus and Mars are approaching Pluto. When we get towards the end of this week and Venus and Mars officially cross Pluto and now head into Aquarius, right, we'll see it. There'll be a massive shift in global consciousness in terms of the things we prioritize and the things we will tolerate. The same rule is going to apply for your personal life. There will be a shift in your consciousness in terms of what your baseline tolerance is. Because remember, whatever you're willing to tolerate in your life is the baseline standard for your life. No matter how awful things are, how horrible people around you are, how uncooperative, unsupportive, you name it, because people, right? Everybody's got their own selfish agenda that may have nothing to do with benefiting or supporting you. No matter how awful and rotten everything around you is, the thing to remember is that the difference between today and next week and 10 years from now is what you're willing to tolerate is the baseline standard for your life. So if this is not working for you, something up here has to shift, and you have to say, no, my baseline, the absolute minimum I will tolerate is this. And if I have to drag everything up or separate from it so I can get to there, then that's what I'm going to do. And it's not about shaming and blaming. It's about understanding there's a shift in consciousness that has to happen, where first we have to recognize what we have been willing to tolerate, even when it's not good for us. Two, from recognizing that to actually accepting and holding that as our standard, right? Oh no, I'm not tolerating this because my level of tolerance is over here. So once you get here and say, I will not accept or tolerate anything less than this as my baseline in life, then you'll start moving mountains and making all sorts of actionable changes that will bring everything up to the minimum standard in your life that you're willing to live with. That's where we're at on a global level, right? So we're feeling it this week. Now, when we get towards the end of the week, around the 10th, Venus and Mars, it's around the 10th, between the 7th and the 11th, Venus and Mars will have moved to 0 Aquarius. So the sign of brotherly love and humanitarian things and science fiction and robots. Artificial intelligence is going to take over the world because we clearly haven't gotten it right yet. I'm just kidding. Venus and Mars will have moved into Aquarius, which again presents a whole different way of doing things. Now, the thing about Venus and Mars together in Aquarius, because this also affects our personal relationships. Aquarius is the sign of the humanitarian, but more than that, it's the sign of the practical idealist. So where some signs are very big on idealism, but not so strong on the action part, right? They're real good at talking and making plans, but actually executing things and getting stuff done, that's somebody else's job. But with Venus and Mars in Aquarius, it's the sign of the idealist who takes action, who does things, right? The pragmatic idealist. So this theme is going to apply also to our personal lives. So we may find that our relationships undergo some transformations as well as we start to expand our vocabulary about what our definitions of a healthy, loving relationship is, what our definitions of friendship actually is, what our definitions of who we are as partners, platonic, romantic, all familial, all those things, all those definitions we may go under as well. So this is a phenomenal time for those of you who are willing to do the work on yourselves to absolutely be supported in your efforts to become a better version of yourself, participating in the world. Very exciting. Now, while that's also happening, understand that Vesta, the asteroid Vesta, will be going into Aquarius, and Pallas Athene will be going into Pisces. Now, I know for some of you are like, okay, well, I don't know what the hell that means. So the asteroid Vesta is the asteroid that rules the goddess for the Vestal Virgins. Now, I know a lot of people don't necessarily know what the Vestal Virgins, we've heard the term the Vestal Virgins, but we don't really know what that is. So the Vestal Virgins, it's too much to go into here, but suffice it to say that astrologically, the correlations with it have a lot to do with service and sacrifice for the greater good, but more specifically, the service and duty in the small personal ways, in the immediate face-to-face ways. So Vesta, the asteroid, would rule, for example, domestic servants, or people who do domestic work, even if they're family and they're not paid for this, because it's the idea that these acts of service are done as an act of service to the greater community, the greater good. In Buddhism, one of the things that they talk about, because it's a very pragmatic philosophy, it's not a religion, folks, it's actually a philosophy. There's a quote, it's before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. And the idea is that regardless of where you are in your spiritual development, at the end of the day, it's your human needs, your basic physical human needs that have to be met before and after the Great Awakening, right? Because no one can achieve enlightenment or spiritual progress or spiritual commitment or any of these things if their physical needs are overriding their priorities. So if you have somebody who is starving and is suffering physically and in pain, all of these physical things that take priority, because these are things that are indicating you're not going to live very much longer if you don't fix this. It's very difficult to get to spiritual enlightenment in a living body if the body's trying to warn you this is a problem. Hence, chop wood, carry water before enlightenment. After enlightenment, you don't get to sit on your spiritual laurels and say, oh, well, I'm enlightened now, I'm too good for this. Carry on. You don't get to do that either, because at the end of the day, now that you've achieved enlightenment, now you have a duty to come back and do what's right and good in service to other people. Chop wood after enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. So hygiene, practical service, as well as medical care and mental health, all of these things, hygiene, that have to do with keeping the world organized and tidy and neat and safe and clean enough to live in, right? Comes under Vesta. With Vesta going into Aquarius, this becomes a global cleanup. So we may actually see, starting this month, once the dust settles, we may see more active focus on cleaning up our global yard. So cleaning up the oceans, cleaning up the like the landfills, which is, an issue. And all of those things that have to do with hygiene, but now on a larger mass planetary scale, as it affects all of humanity, not just little individuals. Pallas Athene is the goddess of wisdom and war. Hard to believe wisdom and war go together in the same sentence, but you have to have a lot of wisdom to avoid war. So it kind of makes sense, right? Pallas Athene will be entering the sign Pisces. When Pallas Athene enters the sign Pisces, along with Vesta changing signs at the end of this week, what it also does, it shifts the focus away from, because it wasn't Aquarius, it shifts the focus away from these abstract ideals to championing the underdog and doing what is right for the unfortunate, the underserved, and the vulnerable. No, I'm going to cry. Sorry. So, massive global shifts in consciousness that are heading in the right direction. And this is literally in concert with Venus and Mars moving into Aquarius at the same time. So with Venus and Mars there, what we're also looking at is Venus, Mars, and Vesta in Aquarius. So we're going to see a lot of discussion this month, and certainly more focused emphasis on practicable, pragmatic, actionable idealism, things that represent and are good for humanity as a whole, a shift and a change in how we approach our relationships and our social mores. And also, I wouldn't be surprised if, because this is the whole thing with the Vestal Virgins, sex work and sex workers, which includes, you dirty birds, your pornography that you're not admitting to watching, if legislation and social mores and definitions of what is and isn't tolerable, and where we got it right and where we got it wrong and why, also becomes a topic of discussion this month. It was just on the John Oliver has a late night TV show on Homebox. So it's on HBO. I'll put a link down below. Did a whole segment on it where he walked back on some of the misleading and mistaken statements he had made a couple years ago about sex trafficking or human sex trafficking. And their writers, the group, did a phenomenally well-researched job and put together a whole episode that's just went out last night about sex work, which includes pornography, but this specifically is about legalization versus decriminalization versus criminalization of sex workers, and how the term sex trafficking has been misused to basically act as a foil to beat people down, specifically minorities and the disadvantaged who can't fight back with good lawyers, as well as line the pockets with funding some law enforcement departments in different parts of the country. So good stuff. So Vestal Virgins, I'm just saying that's where all this is coming from. Okay. Anyway, now, as as we move on from that, my friends, now let's get down to the 10th, which is going to bring us to a quarter moon at 19 Gemini. Now, this quarter moon is very important because it will also coincide with some activity with the Sun Uranus and Jupiter Chiron. So, again, communications is very important. Dialogue, communications, agreements, what we say, why we say it, who we're saying it to, this transmission of information and facts and understanding is going to be very important. I would not be surprised if journalists, bless their hearts, I love the good ones. Oh, I love the good ones, right? Because at the end of the day, they're researchers, and that's fantastic. I would not be surprised if something really eye-popping and, like completely out of the blue is discovered or revealed as a result of journalists or, lay journalists, the Twitter researchers and Facebook, well, maybe not Facebook. But you know what I mean? Like the lay detectives, that do this in their spare time for kicks because, they don't actually have professional jobs doing it because, that's not their thing. So expect some really unexpected and exciting, eye-popping, revealing developments around this quarter moon on the 10th and also the 11th. So whatever comes up should be very healing. It'll be very important information that's necessary to heal old wounds. So take it for what it is. Even in times of distress, sometimes the bad things are blessings in disguise. All right, now, my friend, oh, my friend. Now we come down to the high point of the month. Lordy. Around the 18th, or on the 18th, we have a full moon at 27 Virgo. And boy, have we got a full moon for you. Yes, my friend, step right up. We've got such a full moon. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. This full moon is going to be at 27 Virgo. And this full moon is going to be a powerhouse full moon because around that full moon, leading up to it and following afterwards, the first thing is that Venus-Mars conjunction that we're talking about that has just moved into Aquarius. Well, now, my darlings, as we get closer to this full moon, from the 16th to the 23rd, that Venus-Mars conjunction will be active with Uranus, which is really going to light the freaking fireworks under a whole lot of stuff and a whole lot of people. So this could do a couple of things. One, it could absolutely set the financial industry on its ear, literally on its ear. It's been a roller coaster, but man, this could literally turn the apple cart over. Nobody wants to hear that, but better prepared than caught off guard, right? At the same time, we could also look for some potentially explosive or unexpected aggressive events. Now, the thing about it is, in this particular case, between the 16th and the 23rd, I don't necessarily think this is a national thing or where governments have decided we're going to war, because we're going through this now. It's not quite March I'm doing this with the Ukraine. Let's not go through this twice. Certainly not in bigger form than we're dealing with. However, this may actually be individual. So it may be that one person, because there's always that one in the crowd, right? That's like, oh, hell no, peace my butt. We're going to have a war and I'm going to start it. So, they go out and do something stupid and makes it look like somebody else did. And next thing you know, you got a freaking, brawl in Red Lobster, supposedly because they ran out of meat at the buffet table. When really it was one guy who decided to be or woman, one bad actor who decided to be an obnoxious ass and literally start a huge brawl that made it very difficult to identify them as the instigator. And then you got a whole big mess on your hands. So that week from the 16th, 23rd, right around on both sides of this full moon, understand that there's somebody out there. There's always that one, that's a sociopath and really gets off on chaos and destruction and seeing other people get hurt. So, and they're going to poke the bear or push the button or do whatever they can to kind of get people, all whipped up for nothing. So when this happens, take a deep breath, step back, disengage from whatever's happening as best you can, and understand that this may not be what it looks like. This may actually be one person deliberately instigating to try and start a giant brawl or World War III or whatever, but it's not necessarily executive decisions here. These are small-time, low-level individual players pulling crap like this. So, okay, so now, the other things that are happening at the same time, because this full moon, man, it's active, so freaking active. The other things that are happening is we've got some Mars North Node activity and the Sun reaching 0 degrees declination. So whatever this is that happens, especially when it has to do with conflict or aggression, will be huge and newsworthy and very visible. Like, we're all going to know about it. And again, very random, right? Very random and very, somebody poking the bear and potentially causing things to get way out of hand. Or at least having the appearance of it, right? Things getting blown out of proportion is the phrase you want to keep in mind around this full moon. It doesn't make the act of aggression or, instigating the barroom brawl, or the street fight or whatever. Like, it doesn't make it any less bad. But also, too, understand that whatever this is going to be highly visible and get a lot of attention. So it's going to look a lot worse and a lot bigger than it might actually be from a distance. So things may appear larger than they are in the rearview mirror. Okay. Now, the good news, because you need good news. You need things to look forward to in life. So on a very, very personal level, in terms of your personal life, this week around that full moon is going to be very active, and very reactive. So for those of you looking to spice up your relationships, or, things have gotten pretty predictable and boring or whatever, or maybe you're single and you're just not doing a whole lot. Just whatever, like it's kind of stale. Your personal life is kind of stale. It happens. That is the unfortunate side effect of having a comfortable life, right? That's predictable. Things get a little stale. This week around the full moon is going to give you opportunities to really spice up things. So if you're looking for a window of time or opportunity to really kind of do something exciting, or be exciting, or do something different. Like, I don't know, wear a trench coat and sunglasses and a wig, pretend you're somebody else and do, well, you know what I mean. This week around the full moon is a great time to play games like that, to discharge some of this energy and to break up the stalemates and the ruts in your life. So don't be afraid to show a little love to yourself and other people, in creative and unusual and playful ways, because this full moon will absolutely support that. But remember, everything's very visible right now. So for the love of God, gentlemen, if you're wearing your wife's underwear and a trench coat and sunglasses and a wig, and you're going to surprise her at the bar or at her job, understand that chances are everybody's going to see you when you whip open your coat, not just her. Just saying. And it may even hit the news. So pick your target and your timing wisely. Just saying. Okay. So that's our full moon. Now, as we come close to the end of the month, we've got a quarter moon for Capricorn, which is okay. I mean, there's nothing huge I don't see with this particular quarter moon, which we like a lot. So I would absolutely run with it. That is, hold that thought, 13th through the 18th. So that's the full moon. Well, that's the week leading up to the full moon. Sorry, let me backtrack before we get to quarter moon. Let me finish up this full moon. So the week before, from the 13th to the 18th, leading up to the full moon, some of the things that we can expect to see, and this is a little bit contradictory, so you're going to have to play it by ear and see how this works in your personal life. So on the one hand, people are going to be a little more risk averse. People are not going to love surprises right now, so don't surprise people. No pranks. It will not end well. Surprises are not good right now. It will not end well. And predictability and consistency and being very clear about what you mean and what you say and what you agree to is very, very important this whole week leading up to the full moon. So don't surprise people. Like, people are going to be very edgy and really, really negatively biased against surprises. So don't shock, scare, or surprise people that week. It will not end well. So all of this is to say that if you do decide you want to spice up your personal life, make sure that you have the conversation with your partner first, and you both agree and understand what you're doing and where you're doing it and how you're doing it. Like, they have to be completely on board. This is not the time to surprise them, with a sexy surprise that they had no idea. No, not the time. And now, coming back to the end of the month, which would be March 25th, quarter moon for Capricorn, I'm not seeing anything horrible or awful around this particular quarter moon. If anything, I'm seeing a tremendous amount of relief as the month will close on a very soft, quiet note. Thank God. So we're all going to need the rest. And that is our month of March. So you guys hang in there. The end of the world is not happening as far as I can tell. So we're good there. But, how much damage and destruction we have to deal with along the way is a whole other conversation. So let's get rid of that. And let's get on and through the coming weeks as best we can. Make sure you make some time for self-love and other people love, and remember, there's a huge, massive shift in consciousness happening this month that's very much about what we're willing to tolerate as our baselines, and also how we see and value both ourselves and other people in our relationships, because at the end of the day, it's all about the love. So be prepared and plan for that so you can make the most of it while it's happening. This first week of March is a miracle week, so be prepared for amazing things to happen. And that's it. We'll see you guys in April.